what we bring, our flavors, having bold flavors, having the ability to localize the menu, and ultimately sort of bringing forward good quality and great value, that translates pretty much anywhere.
Everyone eats out, but people often miss how the food arrives on their plate. Every meal has a story of growers, suppliers, founders, and operators making it all happen. Welcome to Grounded. I'm Lauren Mitchell, and each week I will bring you conversation with the amazing people behind the brands you know and the ones you'll want to know. Grounded is powered by the Buyer's Edge platform, the leading food service digital procurement network, powered by data, software, and collaborative relationships. Let's get grounded. Today's guest is a visionary supply chain leader and accomplished procurement expert with over 15 years in the quick service restaurant industry. He's held key leadership roles at some of the most iconic food service brands, including Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen and Krispy Kreme. In his current role, he leads strategic sourcing, distribution, quality assurance, and international supply chain functions. Senior Vice President, Global Supply Chain and QA at Church's Texas Chicken, Will Cash. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be on the show, and thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have you coming in hot from Atlanta. I am very, very excited to hear not only about the brand, but just about your experience. You've got quite a background, and I know the listeners are going to get just about as much out of talking to you as I already have. So this is going to be a great one.
Awesome. Well, let's jump right in.
Let's jump in. So for those that don't know, Church's alone has quite a global presence. And from what I understand, really the presence in the U.S. is only about half of what it is globally. You're in about 20 countries across the world. And it's fascinating to understand how one goes about our role of procurement and supply chain management and at a global level. But let's start with Church's. And I know it's important that you didn't and you don't work for a brand that you particularly wouldn't eat at yourself. So I want to start there. What drew you to the brand in the first place?
Yeah, so with Church's, for those that aren't familiar, Church's has legendary food, legendary flavors, and I'm a huge fan personally. I've had stories growing up eating Church's food, and when I wear a Church's logoed shirt, anywhere I go, could be an airport or anywhere, people will literally stop me and give me compliments about Church's, the food, the chicken, the biscuits, the jalapenos, the okra, all the food that we sell. The quality is it's top notch. So I'm a big fan of the brand, and that's one of the main reasons I got excited when I had the opportunity to join.
That's so cool. Brand pride. That's I love that. But how about your background? How do you feel it suited you for the position with this brand in particular?
Yeah, so my background is a little bit unique. I've spent most of my career in fast food supply chain work. So I feel like my calling in life was fried chicken or fried foods.
Yeah.
I worked for Popeyes and Krispy Kreme, and have done a little bit of everything within the supply chain world. I've supported international work actually for the better part of my career, doing international supply chain. I've worked in environments where it's mainly franchised, also where it's more company owned. I've done food, non-food, so pretty much the whole gamut. And so I feel like, my experience and the different roles that I've had over the years have prepared me well for leading the supply chain and QA efforts at Church's.
And speaking apart from really just conditions with as a function of specific markets or points in time, what would you say is just the greatest challenge of managing an international supply chain?
I would say the international brings an element of uncertainty, definitely more variables that you have to plan for. So supply chain is all about planning ahead. And on the international side, there's definitely some challenges that you don't always face compared to maybe just the domestic supply chain business. So, for the examples I can give would be, um, you know, port shutdowns that can happen, planning for tariffs, and how do we navigate the complexity there, um, lead times and shipping times. So really all this has been things that I've had to navigate during my career. But the international, I guess the word I'll say is just being nimble and having to pivot, if something pops up, that you can't really, predict. Things like the tariffs, as a good example this year, has definitely come into play, with how we source and where we source from.
How have tariffs had an impact on your sourcing strategy? Have you had to make any clear and direct pivots and focused on products made in the US? Have you seen your suppliers do so on your behalf where they've brought production closer? Can you talk to us a little bit more about that?
Sure, yeah. As a brand, I will say we're probably better positioned than a lot of other restaurant chains out there, at least domestically in the US. Um, I think pretty much, regardless of what company you work for, tariffs have had some level of impact. We haven't had as much impact based on the items that we sell. Certain categories of food are more impacted than others. So beef, produce, which I'm sure you know a thing or two about, coffee. Some of these things are imported, a lot, coming into the U.S. We don't sell those items, that I just mentioned in the U.S. So we have not been hit too hard. But other items, other categories, equipment, packaging, things like that are being imported, or components that are coming in. We have had some challenges. In some of the markets that we operate, that are outside the U.S., that are bringing product in from the U.S., we have seen some challenges. So we're trying to be nimble where we can, and look at local sourcing in some of the markets that we operate in to try to offset some of the tariff impacts.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about supplier relationships. And again, you've got locations that are located both in the US and internationally. Do you have at least speaking for the US, our relationship with suppliers seems to be somewhat of a small world here. The partnerships are strong. People, especially with brands, have been with some supplier partners for a long time, and then pop with them from brand to brand. Take me to that same relationship internationally. Do you find it's a common thing over there? Is it more fragmented? And how do you stay in touch with supplier base that do focus on units that are out in the international space?
Yeah, that's a good question. So for churches and internationally for us, we actually do have a presence pretty much across the globe. But we do try to bring forward suppliers that have capabilities, in multiple regions. So we've done a lot of regional sourcing. One of my main goals is to try to leverage our collective volume. So we've got a large presence in the US, and then outside the US, we have certain markets where we're bigger, than others. So, as we grow around the world, my goal is to try to leverage, the collective volume for the church's brand, so that if you're a market that only has one store or maybe five stores, you can still see the benefits of being part of a franchise system. And so that's really the last few years, has been a focal point of our team, is let's develop suppliers that have capabilities, throughout the world, throughout the different regions that we operate in, so that a franchise operator who signs up can see, our collective buying power.
Very important. I love that. Leveraging your total volume for global impact or support. You talked about a very important sourcing principle there, which is selecting suppliers that are nimble isn't the wrong word so much as just have that reach where they're multi-regional. That's a great one. Why don't we take a step back and just talk about how church got to be international? It started in Texas, obviously. I assume it's in some function through franchise business development, but why don't you educate any listeners there, how did you get from Texas to around the world?
Yeah, so we do operate as a franchise business model, and that's really how it grew. I don't have the exact year of when we went international, but I know we started in Canada and have grown, pretty much throughout the world. And it's a success story for sure. International is a growth engine for our company. The chicken category definitely resonates pretty much across the globe, but we grew through franchising, and I think the what we bring, our flavors, having bold flavors, having the ability to localize the menu, and ultimately sort of bringing forward good quality and great value, that translates pretty much anywhere. And so we have a strong international team that is selling this story around the world, and we've had a lot of success.
And how do you get feedback from your international brand partners or presidents or franchise operators in terms of the flavors that are resonating there? That I imagine as you guys have grown across these country lines, I mean, U.S. to Canada seems like a pretty smooth transition there, but the flavor profiles can even differ just right there. Do you have any feedback in terms of just the experience that Churches has gone through in responding to that and how that's looked?
Yeah, so we do have a marketing team that does a lot of CLT research that basically gathering and compiling sort of what's popular, what's relevant at the local level. So a lot of our new menu items that we're doing, that we're bringing out every year, limited time offers, we're actually testing some of these concepts on the front end to just make sure that we're hitting the mark from a flavor standpoint. Um, and that's one thing I think that we do really well is the localization of menu items and doing things at the local and regional level. A lot of the innovation ideas actually happen with our franchisees. So we allow for flexibility and also a two-way partnership of communication with our franchisees and our support teams, so that if something if an idea is brought forward, it could be brand led or it could be franchisee led, and we have that kind of flexibility to allow innovation, and it's been a good recipe so far.
I don't know if your US headquarters require samples of any product that international suppliers have, but if you have the secret to how to land those smoothly and efficiently, I would sure love to hear because sample seems to be the toughest challenge in this business. We can get things rolling and flowing pretty good, but just requesting that single first initial case to get that first impression look, it's always something, especially with ports and all of that.
Yeah, so on that particular topic, it's definitely been a learning that I've had over the years, especially on the international side. So we do have a test kitchen in Atlanta at our office. I go down there all the time, mainly because I like to eat the chicken, but I'll always find an excuse to be in there. And with the international side, it's just not really feasible to be sending food samples around the world. It's expensive. It can be difficult to get products shipped in. Stuff gets held up or stuck. And so, with regards to product evaluations, looking at samples, looking at food items, a lot of that done at the local and regional level. So we'll send people, our support teams. We have resources that live and work internationally. So that's really how we manage that is like, yes, we will occasionally send stuff in from international to the kitchen, but it's not very common, just because of the time and the complexity behind that. Something I've learned, especially as you're trying to locally source and develop suppliers, just sending stuff back and forth can take so much time. And we try to be, like I said earlier, nimble and flexible and also practical as well. So that's sort of my mindset with regards to samples, and hopefully we can be efficient and have people on the ground when needed to look at, products that we're looking to source.
That makes very good sense. Okay, so you've talked about how international has been a growth engine for the brand. We've talked about, I love that two-way partnership to get feedback from franchise partners in terms of the flavors that's really resonating there, that the guests are providing feedback on what they want to see. Let's get into technology and innovation a little bit, especially um, again with the reach that wide and risk management. What digital systems or tools do you put in place to allow you to stay a step ahead, as you mentioned, with some of those variables just being even more at play here?
Yeah, so we definitely use technology, one to store and capture data, but and two to help us make good decisions. So on the supply chain side, we do utilize a system that gives us a high level of visibility into our the products that we buy, the volumes, our historical purchasing history, the pricing that we've secured. We have visibility into what's distributed to our restaurants. We're able to track, like when we run limited time offers, our committed quantities, what's sold. And so we do utilize this system heavily, our supply chain team. We also, our restaurants and franchise operators are able to submit incidents and issues that they have so that we can capture that and then help resolve it. And so we've had a system in place for a while on the domestic side that gives us end-to-end supply chain visibility. And ultimately, as I mentioned, we want to be able to make the best informed decisions. So when we're looking to bring on a new supplier, when we're looking to negotiate the next round of pricing. We know how much we purchase, the volume by market or by region, and those kind of things help us do our job. We can track inventory levels to the distribution center so we know how much is on hand, and if we're running into a shortage situation, it helps us basically be proactive and as opposed to finding out after the fact.
So it sounds like you have strong visibility into your supply chain system, and that's for sure important. Have you personally danced with AI at all in terms of just volume forecasting or any other analytics with supply?
We're at the very early stages of that. So in the dance metaphor, we're just now getting that awkward, like teenager asking someone to dance. We're starting to approach the topic and are utilizing the same system that I referenced to help do sort of a deep dive into multiple years of purchasing history. And ultimately, the goal is to get us to where it's more predictive with what we're ordering, helping us stay in stock but at a higher percentage at the distribution side. And so, yeah, it's definitely a tool and a theme that's not going away. And I feel like that's sort of the future. So we're starting to take the steps to look at what's possible.
How do you personally see the role of data evolving and in supply chain decision making over the next 3 to 5 years? And that could be related to AI or in response to AI or not.
I just think as a response to it, we're going to be tasked and expected to have it more real time. So, the store stock out situation or an inventory situation at the distribution center or restaurant, if you fast forward a few years, I think that the speed at which you get the data, you're going to have more real time information, and the expectation is, you have data faster and you have it, at a rate where like, hey, you're learning about things faster from an inventory standpoint. So that's really where I see it going is just more visibility and less lag time with regards to data access.
I think that answer makes a lot of sense. So it's so much in response to AI in terms of the expectation that, okay, now that we're all aware it's there and we're all aware of the time and areas that it's helping us with, the expectation of what you're doing with that data and how quickly.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
For limited time offers, this sort of the double-edged sword for a supply chain professional. LTOs really drive sales. and they're a critical part of our business, and I'm sure most brands. They can be very, I'll just call it, very tricky to plan for, especially if you've never done it before. So, through AI and through predictive ordering, it may help with accuracy. So as you run LTOs, as you do things from a sales perspective, I think that's where you could see some improvements. Is just the planning, looking back at historical data, especially if you've done it before, breaking it down to the market level, all those things I feel like AI could possibly enhance.
How about consumer expectations and how it's influencing how churches is operating? And you can take this to a new menu item example and just some of the trends that you're seeing with food that churches has applied maybe this year or is going to apply for next year, or even just more back of the house and speed of response, ticket times, or drive through. You can really go anywhere, but how has the expectations of our consumers influenced how y'all are operating?
Yeah, so I will say that unlike probably any brand I've ever worked with or worked for, Churches has one of the most loyal customer followings I've ever seen. It's pretty incredible. We have loyal fans and customers that have been with us for decades through the ups and downs, through the evolution of our brand. We have people that are just diehard fans. I mentioned the example earlier. When I wear a church's logo on my shirt, I'm getting stopped no matter what. People are asking me, did you bring any biscuits? I love your chicken. It's a really fun thing to be a part of. So, we definitely, appreciate and also want to do right by our customers. So we brought back certain menu items. Our current LTO that we're running now is called Smokehouse Chicken. It's an excellent product for anybody that listens to this. I encourage you to go buy it. We're running it for another few weeks on our menu where while supplies last, which is the supply chain code.
Favorite response?
Or hopefully you'll have a chance to try it. But the Smokehouse is a product that we've featured for multiple years, different iterations. We actually did not have it on the menu last year, and we listened to our customers. They demanded that we bring it back. We actually had one customer, a special customer, who requested that we have it back so many times that we honored him and let him go to a special tasting, and we featured him in our social media. So I think
I love
just
that.
yeah, for general, our customers, they're very loyal, and we want to make them happy and bring things back that they request. So our social media team does a great job. We're really trying to focus on our food and publish, things that are going to make our customers excited on our social feeds. So hopefully, our customers will continue to give us feedback, good and bad, so that we know how we can, satisfy what their needs are from a fried chicken standpoint.
I was going to ask you that because food trends in particular for this year cited nostalgia is one of the trending items that people just are falling in love with in terms of when they go to a restaurant or ordering items. And churches has been around since the 1950s. So I thought, gee, I wonder what examples you guys have all put in place that kind of actually plays on the fact that you've been around that long and returns customers back to that, to the roots of the time.
Yeah, I think really, especially the last few years, we have sort of just doubled down on, who we are as a brand. And what that means is we're not trying to be everything to everyone from a food and a menu standpoint. We do have innovation. We do test and offer, new menu items, but the bulk of what we sell caters to our core customer, the loyal fans that love our food. We've really tried to focus on the quality, making it more consistent, improving the flavor. We did actually go back to our original recipe. It had changed over the years, and a few years back, one of our franchisees made a request, "Hey, can we go back to our original flavor for the chicken?" And we did that. And our taste of food scores have actually gone up since then. our legendary sides, our biscuits and jalapenos, just to name a few. That's what we really focus on, with our, with our menu. And then we offer great value. So in today's economy, there's definitely more and more competition for value, and to feed your family, which I can attest to this. I've got a large family of 3 growing boys. Feeding, people still want to go out to eat, and you can go to churches and get great quality food for great value. And that's really what I think has, given us a lot of success the last few years, is just staying true to that. And I think that our customers would feel the same way.
You're getting into it a little bit, but I wanna take some time and really get to the root of Church's brand identity and culture. Like I said, it's been around since the 1950s. I think it's really fascinating to meet a brand that just gets more and more successful over time and has stayed true to its core while the generations have changed since the '50s, right? And the values of each of those generations has changed. So I guess if you could just reaffirm what are the values that Churches is grounded in. You mentioned a little bit about the fact that, it's a return to that and not wanting to change that, keeping it simple, feeding your family, but maybe just more on specifically defining what the values are for Churches.
Yeah, so some of them you've already touched on. The simplicity, that's something that, we focus on our operations teams, running the business. How do we simplify it and also ensure that we have good quality, consistent food for our customers? So simplicity is something that we've really tried to focus on to make sure that we're operating at the highest level. Quality, that's part of our DNA, and I think that's why Churches has been around for so long. Is our customers have grown to love the taste, the flavor of what we bring, and so just focusing on never compromising, not cutting corners. Everything we do is actually done, hand battered, hand breaded, making the biscuits in-house. We're doing things that I think we don't talk about as much as we could, but just having, not taking shortcuts with regards to the flavors and the quality of our food. And then just honoring our heritage, sort of where we come from, our roots. We put Texas in our name, Church's Texas Chicken. We also operate as the brand Texas Chicken in certain parts of the world, and that's really focused on the bold flavors, the taste. We were started in San Antonio. An entrepreneur, George Church, and his family, just selling fried chicken, jalapenos, a real simple, good quality food at a good value. And we sort of stayed true to that, regardless of where we've operated, what country we were in. Some of those things still are true today.
I love it. So it started with George Church in San Antonio. You talked about the simple, clear-cut values, simplicity, quality, never compromising on any of those. It's certainly clear what sets Church's Texas Chicken apart. How about growth in the future? What is the operational focus? Are there new countries that are in the scope for this year or next? What are you excited about for the growth of the brand the next year and from there?
Yeah, so just focus. We're trying to always get better, always improve, metrics such as speed of service, operational scores, the growing our sales, things that we're working on constantly. And then from a growth standpoint, we are in a position to grow again. For many years, we sort of grew, and then we shrunk a little bit, and now we're on the upward trajectory again. With regards to where, I can't mention all the countries, but I'll just say it's going to be all over the world, to keep you in suspense. We have growth coming, I think, pretty much across all major regions of the world, and also domestically in the U.S. as well. So hopefully, as a customer, for those listening, you'll have a chance to see a Church's Texas Chicken or a Texas Chicken restaurant coming soon to your area.
How about your favorite menu item? Can you tell us what your go-to or what your suggested menu item is for someone that hasn't been and is planning to go after listening?
Absolutely, yeah. So, I've talked about chicken a lot. If you're a bone-in fried chicken, um, consumer, I would highly suggest that you try, a two-piece Texas Feast, which would include a jalapeno and a biscuit. Our sides are legendary. Our honey butter biscuits are amazing. I eat multiple biscuits every time I have a meal. And then also some of our other side items, are jalapeno cheese bombers, which are amazing. The whole jalapenos, just to name a few. We have, just I don't want to sound cliche, but pretty much everything on our menu is worth trying. For with my family, I mentioned I've got a large family. We play a lot of sports, and so a lot of times I'll pick up, 10 pieces of fried chicken, a couple of sides, couple of biscuits, and a half gallon of sweet tea, and we'll put a hurting on that, in one sitting. I made the mistake of only getting 8 pieces for myself and the kids. It wasn't enough. So, pretty much any on the menu is worth trying. The fried chicken is what we're known for.
All right. Those are awesome recommendations. Let's touch on that a little bit. You mentioned raising a large family, life outside of work. How do you do it? How do you balance this role, this brand that's up for global growth and beyond, demanding role with just balancing being present and being with your family? How do you do it all here?
Yeah, it's a juggling act at times. So first of all, couldn't do my role, what I've been able to accomplish without my wife, the support she's given me. She plays the role of logistics and supply chain, within schedules. We have, our boys are aged 12, 10, and 8. They're on 3 different teams at pretty much any given time. And so between my travel and work commitments, a lot of times she's juggling the kids' schedules with school and sports. Also, our families, my parents and her parents help us all the time. And so that's really been a, um, critical part of my success is having a supportive wife and family to pull it all off. When I'm not traveling, I try to be as present as possible. I've coached a lot of teams over the years. I've volunteered, you know, as much as I can, but really for me, I couldn't be where I'm at without her support and our families. So that's been critical.
I love that. She's chief logistics. And yeah, if a parent has an opportunity to coach one of their kids' teams, it really is a great way to already be there for practice if you're doing drop off and pick up anyways. And just it is pretty organic, awesome time to not only be with your child, but how they're interacting with their teammates. And it's very special if you get that opportunity. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, we're both skilled at refereeing fight and arguments amongst our boys. We're highly competitive, so we're very we've gotten really good at trying to manage that competitive nature between the kids. They're all 2 years apart. They all compete with each other. Our backyard is like a boxing match at any given time. But it's definitely it's taught us a lot about conflict resolution.
it's awesome. That is awesome. All right. So here we get into what I call the final mile of the episode. They're more rapid fire style questions coming at you from different angles. You ready?
Right.
Who or what has influenced your thinking the most in your career?
Oh, that's a tough question. But when I first joined the QSR workforce or the fast food industry, the CEO of Popeyes when I was there was an excellent leader named Cheryl Batchelder, and Cheryl taught me the importance of servant leadership. And it was sort of the golden years for Popeyes. We were having a really good stretch of results, and she really showed me the importance of servant leadership.
I love that. Good answer. How about the biggest learning moment you've had as I'm gonna call you a QA focused leader in supply chain?
Actually, what a very important learning moment for me was when I did my restaurant training. Um, at churches. So when I first started, I got a chance to work in a restaurant at the local churches near where I live. The operations was phenomenal, and the franchise owners, the Moore family, taught me the importance of quality and how they prepare the food, how they handle the food, the standards that they set. They have such a tight focus on quality. It just showed me the right way to do it, and it was really awesome to see that. They're some of our best operators. They have a few restaurants in North Carolina, and want to give them a shout out because the food there at their stores in Wilmington and Jacksonville, it's incredible. And I will never forget though seeing them and hear them talk about quality all the way down at the restaurant level, and that totally translates over to guest satisfaction.
I have a lot of friends and family that circle the Wilmington area, so I'm gonna send them to that churches for sure. And I love that answer because I think some of our greatest learning moments come from people who model it for you. So it's not only just sending the text to understand in an email or on a phone and hitting that way, but rather just watching it unfold like live before your eyes. I think that is such an extremely powerful lesson. And I love that part of your training involved getting into the restaurant.
I was not good, by the way. I tried to make biscuits, and they gave me a whole new appreciation for, you know, what the restaurant teams, the day-to-day operations. I was not skilled. They were very friendly to me and, were very patient, but it just showed me that, I needed a lot more practice.
Stay in your lane. All right. How about this one? Do you think it's getting easier or more challenging with the influx of technology changes for those that are coming into supply chain?
Um, I think probably both. From a technology standpoint, if you're entering supply chain, um, I think it's almost an expectation that you have to sort of lean in with technology. You can't make the excuse of, you know, I don't I don't know how to do that, or I don't do that. You almost have to adapt. And the AI example that we talked about earlier, that's sort of the new norm. I went to a supply chain event this year, and that was a hot topic, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So if you're entering the supply chain industry, I feel like you almost have to embrace technology and embrace some of the changes that are happening because it's just happening so fast. And so I think it's probably a little bit of both.
Well, you have been so excellent today. I'm sure the listeners got out your humility as I see it every time I talk with you, and I think you have a lot to share with folks. And I want to make sure if anyone listening who's had a question or is perhaps coming into a new part of their role where they've got to grow and develop internationally, if they can feel called to perhaps reach out to you for advice on anything, where can they get a hold of you?
LinkedIn is definitely a good place to start. So I would say just shoot me a message or reach out, and I'd be glad to connect.
There you go. And of course, we'll link the company website for churches in the show notes. And if you're around or drive by and haven't been in yet, head on in, get yourself one of those biscuits he raved about, and go ahead and feed your family tonight. Thank you so much, Will.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
And thank you, audience. If you learned something today, please share this podcast. This has been another exciting episode of Grounded. See you next time. That's a wrap on this episode of Grounded. We've covered a lot of ground as we explored what it really takes to run food service behind the scenes. For show notes, highlights, and our latest market insights, visit us at groundedonthepod.com. Grounded is powered by the Buyer's Edge platform, delivering smarter solutions, greater efficiency, and real savings through connected tech, powerful data, and industry expertise. For more information and to get a personal demo of the Buyer's Edge platform, email me at lauren.mitchell@producealliance.com. And if you liked what you heard, subscribe so you don't miss an episode.